Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Zoom meeting of the Speedway Redevelopment Commission. It is Monday, April 20th at 6 p.m. We will begin by calling the meeting to order. Present here at the meeting is, to my left, Bob Clutter.
Howdy.
To his left, Tim Gropp, the Executive Director.
Good evening.
And joining us on Zoom is Tim Ramian, the Executive Assistant. SRC members Rhonda Schwartz, Jennifer Miller, and Gordon Rundle. Sorry. We have a quorum. Sorry, the Zoom meeting is different. So, one notable absence here is that Tom Popchef is not here. He is unfortunately received the COVID-19 disease and passed away from that. So in his honor and his service, we'd like to have a moment of silence at this time. All right, thank you. We appreciate all of Mr. Popchef's service, and I know personally he was a great mentor, and he is a huge loss to the community and the Redevelopment Commission as a whole. Next, we'll move on to public comment, and Tim Gropp has one public comment that has been emailed in for him to read.
Yeah, per the guidelines set out by the governor for public meetings, public was allowed to email into per the agenda to my email 2 hours prior to the meeting. I received one comment Sunday, April 19th at 5:23 p.m. Hi Tim, my only question is reference to 2020-07 about IMS purchasing Speedway property. Rumor on the street is that IMS has purchased the Lame Duck Hotel. If this is true, I hope Roger tears it down. I know this was started by previous folks, but it's a shame that it got approval to build in the first place. Nobody that has a business on Main Street want this hotel built. It should be torn down and a grassy area, small park should be put on that corner for sure. Maybe if that is done, more folk will rent the apartments that were built by the previous admin in Speedway. Was sorry to hear about Tom Popchef passing. He brought transparency to the Redevelopment Commission, which was at least a beginning to let the town know what is really being spent to buy and sell property and how much is the town getting for selling town property. Mike Smith, past president of Holman Memorial Way.
Noted.
And for the record, there are no members of the public in attendance at the meeting today.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we'll proceed with the election of the officers for the 2020 term. I would entertain a motion to nominate a slate of officers.
I make a motion that we nominate Brody Duncan as president and Jennifer Miller as vice president.
Quick comment on that.
I will second the motion.
Quick comment. This is due to the passing of Tom leaving a vacancy as president.
Correct.
We had previously elected officers.
So this would be an election, a special election to fill Mr. Popchef's vacant seat and then potentially my vacant seat as well. And we have a motion and a second. Are there any additional motions? At this time, we'll take a voice vote. All in favor of Rhonda Schwartz's motion for Brody Duncan to be the president and Jennifer Miller to be the vice president? Say aye,
Aye.
if you agree.
Aye.
Aye.
And any noes or abstentions? Motion passes. We'll proceed with new officer positions.
Thank you.
All right, and moving on, we'll move to the consent of the meeting minutes from our regular session, February 17th.
Sorry. They were prepared prior. We obviously were ready to go in March before the meeting got canceled, so you've had the minutes for quite some time, and would appreciate your approval.
Any corrections or edits? Hearing none, with consent, we will approve those minutes. Moving on, we'll move to the approval of claims for the expenses for the month of March and April.
For the March ones, again, with the meeting getting canceled the day of, you've had a chance to look at those, and we just simply need to go back in a public forum and make a formal approval of the March minutes, or of the March claims, sorry, and invoices. And then as far as April, just a couple things to point out. You'll notice there's 4 Citizens Energy Group. That's because we've taken over the Heaven Sent Daycare, 5242 Crawfordsville Road. That's for March and April. So we have the annex and Heaven Sent, and 5242 Crawfordsville. Just a note that I will not take my mileage stipend for April, as I've been working from home, so I think that's appropriate. The HG rebar, we're going to track, it's on your claims, however, we will track it separately in a sub-account, so I will keep you posted on that. So in your budget versus actual,
Yep.
You'll see it in the revenue side, not in the actual budget versus actual, because it was not a budget line item. And then I wanted to make a note, the Home Improvements LLC was not a parking lot sign post relocation. That was actually the replacement of the window at 5242 Crawfordsville Road. So that was just mismarked on his invoice. And then there's 2 Trainer and Associate appraisals. One of those was 5242. The other one was from Lenore Property. They had never billed us. So I just wanted to clarify that's why there's 2 of those on there. Everything else is pretty standard.
Thank you for the explanation, Tim. Go ahead.
I have a question, Brody, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
Could you speak about the Veritas claim in April regarding the 16th Street improvement?
Yeah, so Veritas Group is doing the engineering for 16th and Main's sidewalk beautification improvements. And so they've been working on it, and that's a partial billing due to that. So we had signed that contract quite a while ago. Did that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Any additional questions? Do we need to vote on the approval? Okay. Take a motion to approve the claims for the months of March and April.
I'll make a motion that we approve the claims expenses as provided for March and April.
I'll second.
Mr. President, if you could call roll, just due to Zoom versus all in favor. Call.
Okay, I got you. Yep. So I'll call your name and then respond with your response for the motion to vote on the approval of the claims expenses for March and April. Rhonda Schwartz,
Yes, I approve.
Jennifer Miller,
Approved.
Gordon Rundle,
Approved.
and I approve as well. Thank you. Moving on, we'll go to the director's report.
Yeah, a few things for this evening. One thing I want to make the council aware of is, per the governor's orders, property tax payments were delayed 60 days, which has been this reverb is really tough to work through.
Yes, I agree.
So we've been concerned about the June, July payment of bond payments because they did not delay our bond payments. So we did a little analysis today. We were concerned we might have to take out a short-term loan to cover it. It's our understanding that we will receive whatever payments were in as normal in June, and then it looks like the Marion County Treasurer's Office is going to do a secondary payment in August. So there will be a delay, but it's after the payment of the bonds. And then we'll get our normal payment, whatever the collections are, in December. So this is more of a cash flow issue based on when collections are. After looking at the analysis, we have enough cash on hand to cover the bond payment. What that means, though, is that we're probably going to delay capital. We're still going to continue with the engineering we have, 16th and Main, and the parking lot on 16th Street, but we really won't do anything else or move any projects forward until we get that August draw. That should reimburse us. I will send you an analysis from London Witty tomorrow that looks at the assumption, we try to be as conservative, that we collect 80%. So our long-term budget and our projects were based off of 100% collections. So what this really is cutting into is extra money to do additional projects. So we have money in the bank, and that'll float our bond. We should reimburse ourselves through August, and then we should get on payment schedules like normal in December. Hopefully, we don't know what's going to happen here. If it goes to 70%, we could still cover the bond payments. If it goes below 70, and these were some conservative estimates that we didn't get our reimbursement on our 2010 bond, and that we're waiting on reimbursement for 2015B. So there's some people will pay, some of that money will come through. This is worst case scenario, though, is we can cover it with what, cash on hand.
Ideal scenario.
Ideal scenario. It's just going to delay projects, and we'll keep you posted, but I'll give you some analysis tomorrow. Yeah. Projects that had capital in place prior, obviously moving on. So Founders Square, Brody and I were able to tour that today, get a handle where we're at. With any project like this, there's things that are coming up. With just, the concrete and the road is an obvious one. But we're working through those one at a time, and we'll keep you posted. But so far, Atlas is continuing to move forward on schedule and doing a really good job out there. We just got to make some decisions on some of the hiccups that have come up, which is typical in any project like that. Gilman Street is finishing up. I drove by today. They're putting up fencing and doing some finishing touches on the exterior. So they're getting close to having that property completed. The fencing is ordered on 10th and Poco, as well as the no trespassing signs that go with that. So they'll come back and reseed that here probably soon. They have some additional sculpting to do, but that project's close to finishing up as far as what it's going to be. And unfortunately, Wilshaw continues to be a problem. We're working through the typical issues associated with the developer. COVID-19 has not helped the case at all. We did receive a communication that COVID-19's causing some issues with their financing. But we're keeping up to date with them. We're still communicating with the developer, and we'll let you know if anything progresses. We were hoping they'd be back on site, frankly, right now, working, and they're not. So they did perform the engineering inspection, and it came back pretty good. So we hope they get to work soon, so they don't have to redo that as well. So, and then just lastly, just a few business resources. We're making calls to local businesses. We're working with the Chamber of Commerce and Kelly Buck, our communications director. There's a lot of resources through the Indy Chamber's Rapid Response Hub. We have a Speedway Businesses Facebook group that's private, so if you're a small business and you're not in that, that's where we're putting a lot of our local business information on grant programs and loan programs and information about opening up and the economy, things like that. So if you're not on that group, please send me an email or Kelly Buck, our communications director, an email, and we'll get you in that group. Just want to, Kelly Buck and the Chamber as well are doing a Shop Local campaign. There's opportunities to create your own video and get it to us, as well as graphics for your business as well. So again, reach out to one of us and we'll help you through that process. And just, we encourage you, I think there's a graphic that might be coming up. I don't want to leave anyone out or circle anyone, but you know, we've had a lot of local businesses that are staying open, keeping people employed and doing their best, and we just encourage you to eat locally and support locally as best you can. You know, Daredevil's done a great job donating cans to causes and doing some nice campaigns. Dawson's reopened last week. Famous Tomato has been open through this whole thing, and also want to mention Barbecue and Bourbon is actually reopening on 4/24 this Friday at 11 a.m. and they will have a drive-through fish fry through the parking lot this Friday evening, and then they'll be open Wednesday through Saturday 11 to 7:30. So different businesses have tried different strategies. We just really encourage you to go out and support them, and we have a list of businesses that are, at least restaurants that are open, and we'll make sure we push that out so you know who's continuing. There it is on the screen. And we didn't intend to miss anybody. It's a changing target every day. Again, some, you know, Charlie Brown's was open early and then shut down here for a while. Dawson's was closed, opened back up. So we're trying to stay on top of it, and we'll do our best to let the public know who is and isn't open. And just a shout out as well, I mentioned Daredevil, but Fatheads and Delara,
Yes.
both contributing to the cause, changing their operations and making supplies that are desperately needed. And we appreciate local Speedway businesses stepping up and supporting the efforts through this tough time.
100%. Does anyone have any questions for Tim? Thank you, Tim. Moving on to new business, we have a couple of resolutions to discuss and vote on this evening. First would be Resolution 2020-01, approving and adopting the MOU for the exchange of property with IMS.
I'll give a little background, then
Okay.
let Bob take the legal side. So the Speedway Redevelopment Commission over several years has purchased various properties and disposed of various properties, and we've ended up with a few properties along Georgetown Road that aren't really advantageous to any of our long-term strategic plans. However, we did have some commitments with the Wilshaw project for parking, so we've been working for, frankly, several years now trying to come up with an agreeable, equal exchange that would benefit both IMS and the Speedway Redevelopment Commission. We feel we've come to that agreement that would swap some property that we have along Georgetown Road in exchange with an equal value property on 16th Street that would allow overflow of Wilshaw to stay on the south side of 16th Street, making it safer for people visiting the hotel and retail along there as well. So this understanding outlines the details to that swap, And the resolution, I'll let Bob kind of talk a little bit about the resolution.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gropp. As you all know, state law authorizes the disposal of real property by the Redevelopment Commission and the acquisition of real property. This particular agreement has been 3 to 4 years in the making. Ever since I've been town attorney, we've been working on it in various forms and formats. There have been a lot of fits and starts, but a lot of hard work by Mr. Gropp and Mr. Blaisdell, the council members in the Redevelopment Commission, as well as IMS and Georgetown Realty. We've come up with an agreement that we think is beneficial to both sides, and you are exchanging property with the IMS and in exchange receiving property back that is approximately equal in value, is located in the redevelopment area, and is of approximately the same general location. So we think that this is a fair and equitable exchange, and the resolution itself states in pertinent part that the Redevelopment Commission hereby finds that the parcels to be exchanged as recited in the MOU are located in a redevelopment area, are located within the corporate boundaries of the town, and are necessary for redevelopment, and further find that it is in the best interests of the citizens of the town of Speedway to enter into the MOU with IMS, and hereby adopts the MOU and authorizes all actions in conformity therewith. And that is your resolution 2020-01. And I would respectfully request your adoption and execution of both the resolution and the memorandum of understanding that is attached as Exhibit A. And with that, either myself or Mr. Gropp would be happy to answer any questions related to that. Feedback is a killer.
That's tough.
Does anyone have any questions? All right, if there's no questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 20-01.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we approve and adopt Resolution 2020-01, the MOU for the exchange of property with IMS.
I'll second.
Thank you. And we'll do a voice vote by your name. Rhonda?
I approve.
And Jennifer?
I approve.
Thank you. And Gordon?
Approved.
I approve as well. Thank you very much. Motion passes 4-0. All right, moving on, we'll move forward with Resolution 2020-02, the resolution approving the amendment to the lease for the Town Hall project.
This resolution is necessary because we changed the construction delivery method on the Town Hall project. Late last year, you and the council decided to go with a build, operate, transfer delivery method, and we put that out for an RFP, and Martz Construction
Greg
Martz GM Construction was eventually selected. That threw us behind by about 4 or 5 months. The lease that you originally entered into stated that the project was going to be completed and lease rental payments would begin by July 15th of 2020. The construction is now slated to be finished later this year, so we need to amend the lease so that the lease payments will begin no later than July 15th of 2021. So we're essentially just moving it back a year. And Resolution 2020-02 approves that amendment to the lease. So I would respectfully request that you adopt Resolution 2020-02 and approve and execute the amendment to the lease.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Clutter?
So the contractor is confident that he'll be able to finish by that date?
Yes.
That's why we're pushing it back a year?
Yes, and the construction should be done later this year, so that gives us plenty of extra room. I think at this point, November is probably substantial completion, but by pushing it back to July 15th of 2021, that gives us about 6 months extra to work with.
And they are working on it presently. We were in
Yeah.
there today. They are continuing to move forward with that project.
And it appears to be on schedule.
Yeah, we had a tour today, and we've made a few minor changes, but everything's moving really smooth there. It's exciting to see it taking shape.
If there are no additional questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve the Resolution 2020-02, 2020-02.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 2020-02, the resolution approving the amendment to the lease.
I'll second.
And we'll take a voice vote. Rhonda? I think you need to unmute, Rhonda. Or you can give me a thumbs up, and we'll call that good. Perfect. Jennifer?
I approve.
Thank you. And Gordon?
Approve.
Likewise, I also approve. Resolution 2020-02 is approved and passes 4-0. Moving on to the next item of new business. It's authorization to transfer SRC property located at 1225 Main Street to the town of Speedway.
All right, this is a little unusual of a request. There's a small piece of property right to the north of Delara that serves, it was a former entrance for Praxair. I don't think they use it anymore, but it still connects to Praxair property, and it's the main access point to what was Harding Racing, and then Delara uses it and parks on the side of their building. So it's owned by the Redevelopment Commission. It was part of back when we owned all this property, when we started redevelopment. This was an access path that was left in our possession because so many different users used it. It came up in the recent sale of the Harding Racing building that there's no formal access agreement, and it's the only access to the parking lot and bays for that building. So we looked at the best way to guarantee that there was public access there. We could simply just do an easement agreement. But I always wondered why the Redevelopment Commission owned this little chunk of land. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. So talking to Mr. Clutter, the best case for everybody is to simply deed this small parcel over to the town of Speedway and then have them dedicated as public right-of-way, basically make it a road, so that everybody has unlimited access to this strip of land. So our only role in that is authorizing me to go ahead and move forward with that process and to take it to the council for dedication. So we'd simply need a motion authorizing that.
Any additional comments there, Mr. Clutter?
No, yes, says, no, yes, yes, no. Tim did bring this to my attention just prior to the closing, and they had talked about easements and different things, and simply the simplest format for that is to dedicate it as a public right-of-way, and that way there's no question about easements or any other access issues, so.
Perfect.
And it's a parcel that the redevelopment commission is not going to do anything with, so there's no reason for us to really be holding on to it.
Understood. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing no questions, we'd entertain a motion to authorize Mr. Gropp to transfer the SRC property located at 1225 Main Street to the town of Speedway.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the authorization to transfer SRC property located at 1225 Main Street to the town of Speedway.
Second.
Very good. Thank you. We'll take a voice vote now. Rhonda?
I approve. And I got my mute unmuted.
Perfect. Jennifer?
Approved.
And Gordon?
Approved.
And likewise, I approve. Motion for the authorization of the transfer of the SRC property passes 4-0.
All right. Thank you.
And our final piece of new business is to acknowledge and ratify the DLGF report, which was submitted prior to the April 15th deadline.
Yes, so there is an annual report due to be uploaded into Gateway, which is the Department of Local Government Finance's portal for public information. It's kind of a clunky report that's made for the system. I did send it out to everybody prior to the deadline, but we went ahead and uploaded all the pertinent information into Gateway, and our clerk treasurer, Jacob Blaisdell, approved and submitted the final report. So we met the April 15th deadline. We unfortunately weren't able to meet as a redevelopment commission prior to ratify the report, so we need to just go back and on record ratify that we approve the report and for submittal, and or that it meets the requirements. And then eventually, when we get back to normal-ish meetings, we will have a meeting that's required with the overlapping taxing units, and a lot of this data is presented in that meeting.
Very good. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing no questions, we'll entertain a motion to ratify the DLGF report.
Mr. President, I make a motion that we ratify the DLGF report as submitted.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We will now take a voice vote. Rhonda?
I approve.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Approve.
Thank you. And Gordon?
Approved.
Thank you. I approve as well. It's ratified. 4-0.
Thank you.
All right. And there's not any old business on here. Do you have any topics you would like to discuss?
I don't think so.
All right.
So keep us moving forward.
Do any of the members have any items of old business that they'd like to discuss? All right.
We will arrange a couple of these, such as the claims will need signatures, so we'll arrange a safe way for all of you to come in and sign at your leisure.
All right. And hearing no additional conversation, our next meeting will take place May 18th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Hopefully we can all attend in person. If not, we'll do this Zoom thing again. So, with consent, I can end the meeting. Is that correct? Perfect. Thank you guys for logging in. I appreciate the time. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Good night.
Oh, that's going to be your...